Blessings, blessings, blessings. Look at here. We got 3 people before I could even sign on good. Blessings, blessings, blessings. I'm sorry. Baby gave up pressure. Blessings, blessings. Yeah, she has something so badly. Hey, Kendra. Well, I tell you, what you thought you was going to say in this conversation, Kendra? Why my phone's acting stupid? Blessings to all of you who have signed on. I'm trying to see who signed on to the regular page. What's the totes behind you? I'm coming. I want to be able to address everybody, but my phone is not cooperating so that I can see who's on here. Here you are. Turn this down. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kendra.
Hello, Lorraine Lawrence. So, yes. So tonight, I don't know how long we're going to be on here. It won't be as long as we usually are. I really wanted to, the topic that I picked for tonight. Hey, Tori. The topic I picked for tonight, it was like, I was trying to consider whether I wanted to continue talking about love like we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And then I thought about, PKs and what they go through and the fact that, um, to me, and I've always felt this way, it's kind of like a double standard when people consider PKs. And so I was hoping that a few PKs would have hit my inbox up so they could have been on here as a guest tonight because I really want to hear from them. People, maybe because I said I need you to be truthful and transparent. I don't know. But I know what I felt like being a PK kid growing up. And so I wanted to, find out where people's mindset is when we talk about PKs. If somebody's not sure what PK is, pastor's kids. Pastor's kids. When it comes to them and church and living life, they're just held to a different standard. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but I'm also saying that they all should be considered human. Um, I need to type this. I typed that right. Yes. So as we go forward in this conversation, I just want to talk about the reality that um, PKs face on a regular basis. Um, I could talk about it from my perspective. Apostle Wyatt lived, even though she was in foster care. Hey, Tati. Even though she was in foster care, she still was under the care of those in ministry. Blessings, Nisi Poo. Um, and so tonight, we just wanted to hear other people's opinions. I have my opinions. Apostle Wyatt can tell you, things that she's dealt with. But sometimes Um, we can talk. I could also talk about it as a pastor with kids, as opposed to being the PK. I've been on both sides of the fence, and it is, I guess, not always an easy subject. It's not always an easy subject. It's kind of like one of those situations where, well, I don't want nobody to say I'm cussing. You're darn if you do, you're darn if you don't. Um, you're either going to be all for the pastor of kids, or you're going to be all for the kids of a pastor. And I think that we need to see it from both sides. Um, as one who grew up, hey nephew, did we finish? As one who grew up um, in ministry and under those who um, loved on me, there was a certain level of expectancy, a certain level of expectancy that was placed upon us. Nephew say he praying for you.
Thank you.
That was put upon us as PKs. As far as I was concerned, we just weren't able to live. That's the best way that I could put it. We weren't allowed to live. And what do I mean by we weren't allowed to live? I'm not talking about just by our parents, but I'm talking about membership in the church who expected more of us than they did their own children. And their justification or their reasoning was, well, that's different because they PK kids. It's not really different. It's not really different. They're the latter part of that is the part that everybody forgot. Kids. And kids are gonna be kids, and kids are gonna act out, and kids are gonna, um, say what they feel. And I believe that, from my perspective, from my perspective, um, you weren't allowed to be yourself, and I think that that is one of the reasons why PK kids, if you just research or consider those who stayed in so much trouble, is because um, they just were never allowed to proudly say what they believed, for lack of better wording. Um, if they did things, they had to sneak, and then depending on the friend you had, um, there was a certain level of respect that was not given to PK kids because people felt like, well, they gave, they gave the Jessica. Which page you on? Because she on both of them. I'm trying to figure out which one she on. Um, Blessings, Master Prophet. Always good. Always good. Um, as a PK kid, you just weren't allowed to be wrong. You weren't allowed to have feelings. You weren't allowed to participate in the average things. Okay, thanks, daughter. Um, Participate in the things that everybody else did. I know if you were like me, while everybody else was at the beach, I was at church. While everybody else was outside jumping rope, I was in the house. Um, And if somebody did something to me and I, as a child, reacted, by the time it got to my mom, man, she was like in my mouth. Back in that day, it didn't matter who you were. If an adult said something opposite, they believed the adult. They didn't listen to the children. Um, and so a lot of people took advantage of that. Um, PK kids got a lot of bad raps for the sake of other people. We took it because we didn't want somebody else, to be reprimanded, or we didn't want somebody else to not like us. So a lot of times when it was somebody else, we took the blame. We felt like if we took the blame, it was going to save them and we wouldn't get as harsh. But it caused a lot of resentment. It caused a lot of disrespect. It caused a lot of, I want to go as far as to say, abandonment issues, wherein the child felt like their parent, as the pastor, dropped them for the sake of the church. Is that the best? Is that a right way to put that? You know, it just seemed like the church always came before us. It always seemed like our parents um, loved on everybody else more than they loved on us. It felt like our parents heard other children before they would hear us. They would tell us to go shut up and sit down somewhere, or I'm gonna deal with you when I get home, or and you watching different ones laugh at you because they know that they really should have gotten that, but you were the one who were held responsible. And the main thing your parents always says is, I don't care who else did it. You know how I feel about that. You should have known better. You should have. You should have. You should have. You should have. That's a lot when you came up as a PK kid. And I just think that if we had been given an opportunity to have a voice back then, we wouldn't be acting out so bad right now, if that makes sense. Um, Let me see what people are saying. Matthew says, try being the son of a deacon. Being the son of a deacon was kind of hard because everything reflected on my dad if we did anything. Master Prophet says we would get in trouble for what others got away with, all because we were the one held to a higher standard. Totally unfair. That's what I'm saying. Prophetess Jessica said all my life. And I'm telling you, it just, we should have been, Master Prophet, an opportunity to actually be a kid. And that's why I said I believe that the reason why so many PKs, ended up in trouble, even with the law, you know, um, constantly getting kicked out of places and things, whether it be school, whether it be, a job, it was because when we finally got old enough to make our decisions, we just were choosing bad ones. We were making bad decisions. We were trying to prove a point that we were our own person now, and can't nobody tell us anything. And so, we just, man, I'm just telling you, just watching other people get away with stuff that we were reprimanded for or put on punishment, you know, it just seemed like we didn't have any type of balance. It was all church. Blessings, Prophetess Young, Prophetess Pastor. It was all church. It was all church. It was all church. The young people, the PKs nowadays have so much more room than we as a younger generation, as an older generation did. We weren't allowed to go to the movies. We weren't allowed to even go bowling. We wasn't even allowed to participate in sports. Everything was going to cause us to sin. So we couldn't do nothing. 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 You know how many people failed gym because they couldn't take it? Because we were taught that anything that would cause any type of physical contact would leave room for fight or dissension. And so therefore we were not able to participate. Once I got in high school, I rebelled. I did. I joined the track team, about anything that I wasn't supposed to do. Because I was just tired of not being able to have fun, or not being able to at least see what it was like on the other side. I spent most of my time telling my friends they was going to hell because they didn't believe like I believe, because that's what I thought that I was supposed to do. That's what we taught. If anybody's living anything different because we felt like we were getting all word, then they were going to hell because they weren't living right. We couldn't go to the movies, Master Prophet. We couldn't. We couldn't go out on dates by ourselves. We couldn't hold hands. They was like, shun the very appearance of evil and don't tempt the devil and all of these things. I mean, we just had it so bad, so bad. And today's, I can speak about my children more than any others because all of my children have a different personality. All of my children have a different personality. I got one that's gonna say what he gotta say, regardless. And while he might feel it's no disrespect and he don't care because he grown and why everybody going to my mother? I'm grown. I said it, and and then I got another one, that just thought they were sneaking, but snuck and did everything they felt they was big and bad enough to do. And because I ain't say nothing, they thought I didn't know. Then I got another one that if they did do it, I'd never know because they were careful about what they did, who they did it with, and they just didn't live out loud. Then I got another one who was so stuck to my hip that there was not room for there to be errors. So I had four different, and then I got another one of my adoptive daughters on here. Um, um, she said everything was going to send us to hell. We did. We did. That's what they told us. We was going to hell. We was going to hell. Hell is widening herself every day because of you. That's what they would say. Hell is enlarging herself because of you, you know. And you would get ready to like go out and excuse me, blessings, Pastor Rivera. You think you getting ready to go out on a date and they be like, where you going? Well, let me go back. Let me back up because it wasn't not like y'all do today. See, we had to bring ours home first before there was even a thought of them being anything to us. We had to bring them to our parents. We had to bring it to our leaders. And if they said no, that was it. But honey, this here generation, everybody want to try it before they get it. Or I'm not going to let my pastor dictate to me, my happiness. And you got people in your ear telling you your pastor don't want you to be happy, and you, instead of defending your pastor and knowing that your pastor has your best interest at heart, you be like, yeah, I know, because your mom, so and so pastor don't do nothing. They'll make them do nothing. They just and that's their pastor. That's why you both have different pastors, because you do things differently. And I just believe that, and this is for PKs and anybody else that join the church. I just believe that when you join someone's church, you agree to abide by all, not some, all the rules and regulations of that church, even when you don't like it, even when it goes against what you feel. You are saying by joining that church that in spite of all that, I'm joining and I agree to the rules and regulations of this church. And yet, we go running to the first place that's going to let us do whatever we want to do. And then we get over there and find out that love really is not what was waiting for you. And now you want to come back and you expect us to just, hey, we not Jesus. We not Jesus. He stands there with his arms wide open, ready for you to come home. That's Jesus. Did you hear me say that's Jesus? Let me read some of these notes because y'all typing fast tonight. Nobody wouldn't come on as a guest. I invited y'all on as a guest, as a PK, so that there are other PKs that are on here and you're saying things, but you all can have your own conversation. I don't have to monopolize this thing. Some of these change your voice, so I'm going to change it for you. Yeah, we was good. I said that to my children too. I did. I brought that on over from my mother. Change your voice for I change it for you. Or I will slap you to the other side of the room. Or is there something you needed to say? Because children mumble under their breath. Did you say something? Or I clear my voice. But for the most part, all I had to do was look at my children. But you can't. You mean I still do that? I do. I do it with every child, anybody's children. A look will get them what they want. Huh? Let me go back up here and read some of these comments. Okay, I left that. Master Prophet saying we couldn't go to the movies because the saints said we were sitting in the seat of the scornful. I'm telling you, we had it bad. We don't have nothing like what we allow our PKs to do in this time and day. Matthew said he was in the same boat. That's old school. Kendra just said, ma'am. She got the emoji up here with the lady slapping herself in the head. They used to say, come out from among them. I'm telling you, they would stop us at the church door. I don't know how these people getting all the way to the front seat. They got us at the back door before you came in. Sit here with me, baby. Sit here with me. Kendra said everything was going to send us to hell. Lisa Young said I couldn't wear pants, that I didn't participate in gym class. I'm telling you, I couldn't wear pants. The first time I wore pants, I was in my late 20s.
I ain't started wearing pants
late 20s.
My first marriage.
I wouldn't even say it was my late 20s because, yeah, I was almost 30 something years old before I wore my first set of pants. And then at first we couldn't participate in gym. That was old school rules, nothing that was going to cause physical contact that would cause a fight or discord and all of that stuff. They wouldn't let you participate in. And so for me and my rebellious self joining the track team and everything. And so I went over my uncle's house one day. My pastor, who happened to be my uncle, and I called him Uncle Bishop, went over there. Just know I was going to see him because I loved being at their house. Didn't he introduce me to his friends as his nephew? That thing resonated with me for a long time, and I never again came over his house in a pair of pants because it wasn't something that our organization as a whole believed in. But I was determined that I was gonna, be like everybody else because I wanted to fit in. I wore dresses from pre-K all the way up through high school, winter, spring, summer, or fall. I wore a skirt in the snow. I wore a skirt. My mother had me on a skirt with some socks and shoes. Then it was boots with a skirt with opaque tights. I just, just didn't get away with a lot of stuff that we get away with today. They used to say, "Come me out from among them, I couldn't wear pants." I'm glad I am today. Just glad I couldn't have it any other way. The Rivera said, I'd be Pastor Rivera, Pastor Andre Rivera said hello.
Hi.
I'm telling you, we needed approval for anything that we dated, anything that we wanted to do. We really did. We sought our leaders. We just believed that they were the voice of God toward us. And whatever they said, we believed it. And if they said no, kicking and screaming, we would go, but we would let it go because they said it. And our leader, they would openly rebuke us if we didn't obey and if we did things outside of what they had taught us. They didn't have any problem bringing you in front of the church. Open rebuke. If we bring that back to the church, we're going to really find out who's saved. Mighty God today. Yes, they said change your voice or I'm going to change it. Right. No, if or ands or but about it. No is no. Absolutely. That's what this generation needs today. What I had back then being pushed. I wasn't a PK. Shanae said, I wasn't a PK, but my mom served as state missionary in Kojic. I was restricted from doing a lot and was always in church. Yes, Pastor Rivera, that is submission. That is submission. That's Prophetess Jessica, you're right. They be like something in your teeth because you call yourself snacking your teeth under your breath. They be like something in your teeth.
You want me to slap your eyes? Slap your eyes in the back of your head.
Telling you, who you rolling your eyes with, man. Yes.
You stomping your feet at? You want me to break your leg?
And try to go in the room and close your door. I'll open your door in a minute. I paid for this door. That's the way.
I paid for the door.
I paid for this door. You're not grown. This is my bedroom. You on rent.
What about the cell phone when it was $1 a day?
Oh my God!
When Jess got in trouble, I was like, "You ain't getting no cell phone today. Now you ain't getting $1 for your minute."
I had a teen line. They don't do that no more. I had a teen landline in my room that as soon as I started working, guess who had to pay for it? And I was only like 13, 14 working for Speedy at that time. And we had to pay for our stuff. Master Prophet said we got whooped for those things, that jealous saints would lie and say we did things. And because an adult said it, our parents believed it. I'm telling you, he said he's still traumatized by it. I'm telling you, if somebody came and told my mother something, she did not want to hear what I had to say. She just didn't. And what I took from that, or what I learned from that, because when it's all said and done, most of me is grateful for my foundation because it has kept me alive. It helps me to understand relationship, and it has kept me safe. It might have been harsh, but I still have standards now because of what they did concerning us back then. But we definitely got whooped. What? And what do you mean? Wait until you get home, man. Let me tell you something. You got it at church by whoever had to tell your parent, and then if you had one parent at home and one parent at church, you got two of them jokers. You got one from mama and one from daddy. They whooped you real good. I bet you never did it again. I'm telling you, there was some stuff. There was some adults that knew, some grown folk who knew that your parent would reprimand you with a whooping, not just words, if they told something, and they really got pleasure out of getting you in trouble. That's what traumatized me. The fact that an adult who's supposed to be saved, sanctified, speaking in tongues is the one who's telling my mother a lie. And because I didn't have no better sense, I called them a liar. I didn't say you telling a story. I said, Mommy, they lying. Boom. Right in my mouth. Don't you ever, you know. And so that's why to this day, when children use that word, it's like I cringe. I was like, change it. I didn't, after that, you didn't hear me using it again until I was an adult and understood that there is a difference between telling a story and telling a lie.
Some of my children, well, they're not children anymore, they're grown now, but some of them still won't do certain things and let me know that they're doing it, or they'll try to hide it because they know my beliefs and what I believe in. So they still respect me as such, even to the ones that live with me now. Ma, can I go such and such? Can I do such and such? And the first thing they'll say is because I know how you are or I know your standards. And I say to them, you grown now, so you got to be accountable for your own actions. But the fact that they still respect me, y'all forgive my tote bags. I have some work that needs to be done. And if I don't put them there, I'm going to forget. So forgive my tote bags in back of us.
Finish what you were saying.
That's it.
Um, they just, my children know what I believe, and they know I stand by it. I don't care how grown they get. I still, stand by the same things. And so they would hide their little. Well, I only got one. They got tattoos everywhere, but they would hide their little tattoo. Well, they ain't little tattoos. What am I saying? They would hide the tattoos. If I saw them, it was just by chance. It wasn't because I knew that they had it, and that's because I still believe in that portion of the scripture that says we shouldn't have any markings on our body. I do believe in that. Also, because we did find out that it's cancer causing. So, of course, when you consider it, you be like, why is y'all putting all this cancerous stuff in your skin? In your skin, And so I have my own little issues as to why I still don't like it. If we went on a Sunday school trip, we had to have on a jean skirt. I'm going to put that one up. If we went on a Sunday school trip, we had to have on a jean skirt. I'm telling you, we could not. We could not. And if we had on first of all, we couldn't wear two-piece bathing suits. It just wasn't allowed. And even if you had on a one piece, you had to have on a t-shirt or something that covered it. I never understood that. Like, what's the point of letting us get a bathing suit if we got to cover the whole thing up? Like, and they be like, no, because when you get in the water and that water start clinging to your body, you don't want to start tempting men. I mean, they had a reason for everything. God help us, but they just really worked very hard at keeping us saved, at keeping us safe, um, as allowing us an opportunity to understand what holiness really is, dressing in modest apparel, as the scripture would say. They had something for everything. Kevin Kimbrough says, blessings, man of God. The worst thing about being a PK was watching the folks mistreat my parents. Made me not want to be a part of ministry. That part. That part. Now that's reality. That's reality. I said it, ended up becoming it. And then my children, they would say it even to this day. Like, like my son, who is pastor now, when he first became, one of the first things he said was, what I'm not going to do is you. What they're not going to treat me the way they treated you. I watched you go through that. I watched your tears. I watched your heartache. And what they're not going to do is do me like they did you. And I was like, you'll understand. You'll learn better, as you walk in this role of pastor. Blessings, apostle. Um, you'll learn better as you walk in this, line of ministry, because you'll find out that what you would say, God checks you when you allow him to. God checks you. And you just won't be able to say what you think. There's so many times that I said it in my head, ooh, and it never got out my mouth. But then, I just even got convicted with that, because doesn't the word says that if you think, when you think about that thing, you've already committed the sin. um and so therefore you've already acted it out in your mind. And so even to this day I have to catch myself, I'm telling you, because people will make you wonder if God knew what he was talking about when he told you to be in this ministry, because you just want to let them know you're not as simple as they think you are. They will make you go there. And so some of our children as PKs um have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to leadership and the church, a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to people who are supposed to be serving their parents, and the conversations that they hear, and the mistreatment of PKs behind, I want to say closed doors for lack of better wording, but really what I'm saying is when you're not in the presence of your parents, the things that people would say and do to you. And because they know that your parent is going to believe them, it just didn't make sense for you to tell what they was doing, because your parents was going to believe them anyway. Tanisha said, I remember coming to church mad because my plans was always messed up. And every time this lady pastor saw me, she'll turn around and prophesy my whole life to me. I used to cry. There are some of us who we were, as they said back in the day, is marked, right? They'd be like, you marked. I don't care. And how do I know that? Because, honey, when I was saved, calling myself saved and going to the club, somebody would tell me, it used to be at least one person each night that I went to a club that told me I looked like I was shouting. All that thing. I just would cry and cry. It was like I couldn't have no fun. How come everybody else can get away with it? They'll never pick nobody else out. It's always me. It's always me. Why can't I have fun? um, how can you join? On your screen should be Matthew. I'm gonna see if I can bring you in, nephew. Yeah, you marked. That's what they were saying, Minister Kimbo. You are marked. Uh, Pastor Pastor Rivera said, "I'll take the door off the hinges." Let me tell you something.
Or jump out the window.
Let me tell you something. I'm telling you, all of my kids handled me differently. When it came to stuff like that. But as long as they were small, what do you mean lock your door? You pay rent here? No, you don't pay rent. So what you're gonna do is crack your door. Especially once it got to the point where I was allowing them to have company. Oh, we don't close doors in this house. We don't close doors in this house. Um, so yeah, we did. We had a different type of church back in the day when we were coming up as PKs. Don't go to sleep in Bible study nor church. They will wake you up. Wait, what about when you had candy and the usher would come and take your candy because you're not supposed to have it in church, and then you turn around and they eating it? They take your candy from you that you're not supposed to have in church, and they sit in church and eat your stuff, yo. I'm telling you. Parents don't believe it to this day. They don't believe in it, but we got whooped. They ain't care about diapers. They was like, call them. They're going to bring you back. They'll tell you that in a minute. I'll say that now. Go call them. You'll get pinched. Ooh, ooh. You ever got pinched?
No.
Oh, my gosh. That hurt. That hurt. That hurt. It's like when you see them coming after that, you just straighten up, because you don't want that to be the thing that they do. My godmother would lay the oils on us. What? My godmother would lay the oils on us. Hey, Ma. There she is. Yes, she is. That's my daughter. That's my daughter. She used to get her tattoos and try to hide them from me. Now she just get them. I was looking at my birthday pictures. I was like, what? I did not notice that big old arm. We always had to wear ties when I was coming up in church. Um, we did. We dressed our children for church, no matter what kind of service it was, whether it was during the week or not. We had them dressed. I would have blessings. Troy Hamilton. I'm not sure of your proper title, but bless you, man of God. Thank you for joining us. Um, my daughter, I would have her all frillied up. These kids nowadays, they be mad because you trying to make them frilly. They be mad. My little I got a sermon, spare the rod, spoil the child, then whooping, then punishment. Yes. All while they whooping you, that's what they saying. This hurts me. This gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. I never understood that until I became a parent, and then I understood because I was never one. I was never one who wanted to have to whip my children, and so yeah, it did bother me whenever I had to. I didn't do it as often as their dad did, but I just wow, love, did you make it on time? I just didn't, and it really did hurt me. Sometimes I would cry when I whipped them, but the other times I did laugh. One time I laughed my way through the whole whooping because it was how I had to get through it. And I also gave them the opportunity to tell me who was going to go first. So I would not have to look for anything because they always hung themselves. And one time they got locked out trying to get back in the house when I was pulling up from church because they knew they wasn't supposed to be outside. Watching them try to get in that house was hilarious. It was hilarious. Oh my God. Just watching them, each of them struggling to see who's going to get in the door first. Oh, the laughter. That's the time when I laughed. That's the time that I laughed. Yes, I did. I got them real good. I got them real good because what you going to say now? Somebody telling a lie on you? I drove up and you outside. I left you in the house with instructions. We had an usher in the church that would pinch the life out of us, and because of her, until this day, I'm traumatized by pinches. Master Prophet, you traumatized. I'm gonna need you to be all right. I'm gonna need you to be all right because we gotta help this generation. We gotta help this generation. Don't. That's right. Don't do that beautiful baby like that. I'm grateful that my children, um, because they didn't really like whoopings, um it didn't take all of that for me. I can look at my children a certain way. They knew that it was it. And if I had to stand up, it was over. And so I prided myself on, and when I say prided, not because I'm proudful, but meaning that I didn't see the need to whoop them for everything when they already was whooping themselves by just trying to figure out what was going to happen after that look. And so therefore, most times they had already beaten them own selves mentally about what was going to happen. And so I just would, let them go to bed, or I would wait till they go to bed and then wake them up out their sleep with the whooping. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just to let them know I ain't forget. I'm whooping you because I love you. Minister Kimbrough said, I'm whooping you. They would say, I'm whooping you because I love you. He said, please don't love me so much. Oh, man. This is my eldest daughter. This is the good prophetess. This is my firstborn. This is the child that caused me a lot of hell in church. And when I say caused me a lot of hell, it wasn't nothing she did. People who didn't understand the situation as to how she was conceived, who was speculating and running their mouth without information, um, put me through a whole lot. And so she became my best friend. Like, I never let her out my sight. My mother never had to babysit her. I was very much into the arts. I was doing off-Broadway plays. She was with me at every rehearsal. She was with me for every show. I was modeling. I was doing fashion shows with Stars in Motion at Club Eleganza, and um, what's the other one? Club Eleganza, Club 88. Um, oh man, Club Cayenne. We used to be, in all of those places, and she went with me everywhere because I didn't want her out of my sight. And until she was grown and having her own children, she was my road dog. Everywhere I went, there she went. And so she became my best friend. And so they saw, my children saw firsthand um, some of the things that I went through. I never knew some of the things that they saw until they got older and they started talking about it. When I was little, if the ushers saw you chewing candy, they'll come from behind with a napkin with no words, but spit it on the napkin. That was torture. My mouth was dry. I wanted them strawberry candies and blueberry peppermints. Y'all is funny over here tonight. They would just come in here, spit it out. And you better wait. What about when you was in the youth choir and they saw you chewing and they would come up all the way up to the choir stand? They couldn't call you back there where they were. Come all the way up to the choir stand, all the way up to the choir stand to say, spit it out. Man, that was something. Thank you for those of you who are sharing your stories. Uh, right. My mom was an usher. She used to put her hand out as well. Daniela said, I did. Forgiveness is real. My daughter says, I don't like how people will almost act like we are not humans, like we couldn't do anything because we were going to hell, but they would forget that they were there with us. For real, and that's what I um say now, that people don't allow PKs to be the children that they are. They just put so much pressure on them. Some of these I'm telling you, some PKs took their lives because they couldn't live up to what was expected of them, because they were dying in silence, and because they felt like they didn't have a voice and nobody listened to them and nobody believed them, and there was so many reasons why some of these PKs were depressed and suicidal and became cutters. And I mean, the things that some of them would share with me, even as a young person, um, even as a young person, I'm telling you the stories that some of these PKs shared with me. Um, my Bessie's not feeling well, so she's turning in early. She loves y'all. She loves y'all. She loves y'all. Maybe I should have been a PK. I probably would have turned out better, honey. Pastor Hall said that, honey. I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. Um, I um I still go through things where people be like, "Did you see what your child put on Facebook?" Well, it's their Facebook page. They grown, and people will assume. And you know what they say about assumptions. I'm gonna leave that right there. But people would assume that because my children, well, mainly one of my children would post and say things on Facebook, they would feel like um, I never said nothing. Well, once I tell my children one time that, it's disrespectful or they shouldn't put it or they should remove it, what they do after that is totally on them. As a mother, as a pastor, I've already said to them, and they're going to have to pay for what they say and do, because their understanding, their need to be able to voice themselves, because for so long they couldn't because they weren't allowed as PKs. Whatever their reasoning is, I'll never try to necessarily justify it. All I will say is that just because you see them do things does not mean that I have not said anything. They have a right, just like you. Some of us leaders get on here and post things worse than some of these PKs, and I don't know where your mind be at the time that you're doing it, but you expect others to not say anything because you have a nerve to go up there under it and say, and I don't need nobody inboxing me, and I don't need nobody coming in my comments. But you're a whole leader, and you're expecting everybody to respect you as such, but you're acting like everybody else. And so that same measure of grace and mercy that you're expecting for yourself as a leader, to be able to identify and want people to know you're human, PKs have the same testimony. They just want somebody to know that they're human and they got feelings, and they might not do everything right, but it doesn't mean that they don't love God. It doesn't mean that their parents haven't taught them anything. It doesn't mean that. It means that they finally have a voice and they have so much to say that sometimes they're just not able to contain it. Sometimes they have been cut off and never given an opportunity to voice, hey cousin, to voice their feelings. And so you have to be careful how you're quick to judge others. The Bible does also let us know scripturally that we have to be careful, because the way we judge others and the way that we, or the measure of mercy and grace that we allow others, is the same measure that he shall do so with us. It also says, judge not that ye should not be judged. So you want everybody to understand when you acting crazy. But if it's a PK, now you want everything and everybody to say something about it, and it's not cool. And do I say something to my children? I'll never not stand it. I'll never not say anything to my children. But what they do have is their own right or their own opportunity to remove or let stay. It's their page. It's social media. Most of you really, what's the right word I want to say? Gas them up, because you might not say anything under their comment, but you inboxing them, gassing them up, and telling them, you agree with them, or man, you, if it's one of my sons, you got balls for doing that, or my daughter, man, it took a lot of guts to say that, you gassing them up, because that's right, because you got, but you throwing stones and hiding your hands. You're telling them to do this, you're putting this up to do it, and then you get mad at the clapbacks. You can't do that. You got to pick which way you want to go. And I feel that whether it's my children, your children, anybody's children, PK or not, once you put it up on Facebook, you're asking for anybody's comments. So don't put stuff on Facebook and then go under there and say, I don't need nobody reaching out to me. I don't need nobody. What you put it up there for? You gave it to the world and then said, shut up. What sense does that make? You put it out there because you wanted somebody to know. So now you have to deal with people's opinions. You have to deal with people's comments. You have to deal with the phone calls from your leader or your parents, whether you're a PK or not. When you all do what you do, they don't go to you. They go to your leader, because they expect that your leader is teaching you something different or better, and they would expect that you would want to respect your leader. And so I want you to consider all that. PKs get the bad deal sometime, not all the time. Sometime, not all the time. Sometime. Did I say sometime, not all the time? Yeah, I meant that. Sometime, not all the time, because sometimes you did it, boo. You did it. You did it. You know how we know you did it? Because we got to come get you out of jail. We got to pray for you, because your parent is distraught, because they're going to now have to deal with the fact that everybody know you in jail and what you in jail for. Either you done beat somebody, you done smoked somebody, come on. And so you did it. And so don't get mad when the world responds. You gave them the ammunition. There's a good and a bad to this. I'm about the side of what's right, but at the same time, having been on both sides of the ship, I understand. And I think that everyone has a right to their own opinion. It's how you voice it. There have been some times when my children, or can I say my children? My child has posted something and they said something really good, and they got down to the last 3 or 4 sentences and the profanity is in it. Now I can't like it. I can't even like it, because I'm condoning what you said, and I'm not going to do that. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to condone it. I get right in that inbox and said, I almost liked it, but you ended it like this, and I let them know what, even though I believe in what they're saying and they have a right to it, they could have worded it a different way. One thing they can never say is that that's the house they grew up in, because what I didn't do is use all of that profanity in front of my children. What I didn't do was, if I needed to tell you off, use profanity, because my mother taught me that once you start using profanity, you show you have lack of vocabulary. And so since I know that that wasn't my situation, I learned how to tell you off bad enough that you felt like you got cussed out. It's something that you have to learn, because you don't have to use profanity to get your point across. You don't. You really don't. Um, if you would just say what you feel, I'm sure there are many people who could understand exactly where you're coming from and be able to have a fruitful conversation with you without doing all of that. And so I'm not ever saying that the opinions that I know we couldn't have a child out of wedlock. We got sat down for 9 months, couldn't shout, couldn't act like you love Jesus or nothing. All you could do is come to church. And I can't highlight your comment, Minister Kimbrough, because you're on my main page instead of the Loving the Me I See page, so they can't see what you're saying. But I'll go on my kids' box in a minute and say, take that down, or could you please take it down? Before I used to go in there and just say, take it down. Now I'll be like, could you please just take it down? I know it's your right. I know it's your opinion, but I would really appreciate it if you would take it down. And they either are or they aren't. But it doesn't mean that I don't agree with what they're saying. I just don't agree with the way that they said it. That's what I was saying earlier, Daniela. They really are. Kids, PKs are seen and not heard. And I tried really hard to make sure that my children didn't always have that testimony. Now they didn't always agree with the way I handled things. They didn't always agree with the fact that I didn't agree with them. But when they really became mature enough and really looked at how I was handling things, they understood that I've always been on the side of what's right, even if it means that my child is the one in the wrong. I've just always been on the side of what's right, because I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility, not to them more so, but to God. After I have honor my responsibility, because anybody that knows me will already say, "Oh my God, I bet you, Apostle Armando." Even though, and you'd be surprised how quick people be in my inbox. They don't say hello to me every day during the week, but they know how to find me when they want to tell me something that my children are doing. I have a problem with that. I really, feel like sometimes I take that attitude like, miss me with that, because you don't even speak to me as a co-laborer in Christ, but you're going to find your way in my inbox to tell me what my child is saying, when as an adult, you could have went on their status like I've done to other people's children and said, hey, do we have to go there? Or can, come on, let's talk about it a different way. I don't just tell you what I haven't done. I do it. And so, I want them to understand that I raised my children. I raised them in the sight of God. I didn't live a double standard. I didn't do that. And so now they have a responsibility to do it out for themselves, to live out their own soul salvation. If they go to hell, it won't be because I didn't teach them. And that's just my cat. She wearing me out because I won't let her on my lap. So she kind of like trying to make her way right here and sit by me. And so, PKs, man, I've been trying to do a whole full-fledged PK conference for a long time, because they just need to be heard. There's some PKs that are suicidal, and they're sitting in the midst of Holy Ghost filled folk who are not sensitive enough to pick them up, and that scares me. That makes me nervous. I just feel like I could get on here and talk about it for a long time, but if we never do anything about it, then that's a problem. And anybody that knows me knows that if I look at you and I sense something is wrong, I'm going to ask you. You have the option as to whether you tell me, but it won't be because I didn't ask you what's up, or I ain't say your body language is saying one thing, your words are saying one thing, but your body language is saying something else. And give them an opportunity to talk, give them an opportunity to be heard, and let them know that as long as they're respectful, I can sit down and hear anything you got to say. But what you're not going to do is use profanity while you're trying to explain yourself to me, because that's disrespectful. I don't use it. You're not going to use it while you're talking to me. Find you some words, and then we can have this conversation, and I'm going to listen to the best of my ability and try to hear, not just listen, but try to hear what you're saying and hear what you're leaving out. Um, because it's imperative that PKs be made to feel like they matter. They need to feel like they matter, not just because they're PK kids. You know, there's some people that try to lovey-dovey up to the PK kids because they feel like it's going to get them favoritism with the leader. Let me get close to them, because if I'm close to them, I know this, and I got firsthand information to this. You know, you're befriending PKs for the wrong reason. Your agenda is not pure, and it's just not cool. It's just not cool, because even though they're not able, well, we weren't able, because in today's society, PK kids do so much more than we were able to do. But I think it's wrong to befriend them for the sake of, and I'll leave that right there. Befriending them for the sake of. Oh, you know, she talking about the usher, y'all. The usher. She talking about the usher who took your stuff. She ain't even walk you to your seat, but she gonna come and get your candy because she hear it rattling. Now you can't whoop your kids and leave a mark on social services is at your door. We got whooped, and whatever my mother got a hold to. I'm telling you, my mother and them, they would send you out for that little switch on the tree. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, my mother didn't do a lot of throwing no shoes and throwing no things. Nope. You got to switch, or she wait till you take a bath, and while you getting out that good tub, that belt would hit that skin. Mighty God, you just didn't ever want to do it again. And they didn't care about you going to school with webs on you and worrying about diapers and all this stuff like that. They whooped your tail real good. Black and white, everything. I'm telling you, you ain't have to worry about what you was wearing at convention. You just did not have to worry about what you were wearing at district convention, youth convention, because you were either in the choir, on the usher board, or serving the leader. And those were the only colors you could wear: black or white, or black and white. And so we didn't have the most colorful I've ever been is since meeting my bestie. Everything black, 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 black. And we, because you can dress it up or you can dress it down, but black and white was it. And we ain't wear all these see-through stockings. Woo! Mighty God. I'm telling you, at least y'all got to flat iron your hair and all this stuff today. Because back then, however you woke up and combed that junk, that's where it was going. I was always dressed, even when I went to school. Every day was a suit and a tie for me. I'm telling you, they have no idea, like the choices that they have now that we didn't have as a PK. We just didn't. We had to set the example. Sometimes you just got tired of being the example because it just left no room for your individuality. And so now some of us as adults are still struggling with who we are, because this is finally the time that we get to do what we want, and now we don't know what to do because we're so used to doing what's expected instead of what we want. We just do what's expected because we don't want nobody to see us wrong. They don't want nobody to think that we don't know how to act. We don't want nobody to feel like we don't love God. And there's all these, we don't want nobody, we just don't allow them to be themselves. And I think that as quick as we are to judge a PK for what they've done wrong, we should be even as quick to applaud them when they're doing something good. And it doesn't mean wait until they do something great, but the small steps that they make. You have to learn how to applaud the small steps. That's what I tell everybody in my life. Learn how to applaud the small steps, because that big bang might not ever get here. Then you're going to be mad because you never got celebrated. But you have to learn how to applaud yourself when others don't. And when you see that you're making strides and you recognize by a situation that comes up and you respond differently, and when you think about it, you're like, oh my God. Like, I remember when, yes, applaud yourself, boo, because some people will never do it, and they make you feel like you're never accomplishing anything. And I don't think that that's fair, not just to PK kids, but to anybody. I just don't think that that's fair. But what I've learned to do is applaud the small steps. Applaud the small steps, because as you applaud the small steps become bigger steps. And so eventually you get to that place called there. And then you can applaud the way you want to. Why? Because it was you and God, not you and somebody else who called himself taking credit for making you into who you were. God created me. He already knew me before I was formed in my mother's womb. So whoever I become today, it is because of God. You just happen to be a vehicle that helped, but it was God, because he preordained me. So he already locked this stuff in me. I just had to be willing to let it be open. And so it took a long time for me to get there. A long time, like for real long time to get there. And so I just, you didn't say, well, what does this have to do with loving the me I see? Because PK kids really um aren't taught to love themselves like that, at least back in the day. You were born into a family and you just had a responsibility that was unspoken. You had a responsibility that was unspoken. You ain't know before you became 7 or 8 years old that your mother and father was a pastor, and there were certain things you just could not do. You were born into that. You weren't asked to be a part of it. You were born into it and then held responsible for something nobody ever told you. And so now here we are as adults, um, who have finally started coming into their own. And we have ourselves now asking ourselves the question, well, what do I want? What do I like? I said last week, I found myself saying, man, I probably would have never did that if I wasn't involved with so and so and so and so and so and so, or if I wasn't trying to fit in. I probably would have never done that. And so you have those moments of regret even with that. Like, you really shouldn't have done that, right? Like, you beat your own self up before anybody else gets the opportunity, and they don't even recognize that. So then when they come on top of what you're already doing to yourself, you become depressed, you become withdrawn, you become suicidal, you become easily irritated. There's so many, angry, almost to the point of rage. Sometimes you're put in a dangerous position without even knowing it. Don't try to say you calling the police. My mother would say, go right ahead, go with them when they come. For real. Because I promise you they're going to bring you back. Because they're not going to put up with what I put up with. My father would use me as an example in his sermons. Guilty. My kids would be going through these seats. But it depends on what the sermon was. But I've always used my children to this day, because I want people to understand that they, while they are PKs, they were still expected to be good children. I didn't let them slide just because they were my kids. I didn't do that. And so their situations were the real life situations that I had to share with somebody else, who then received their healing because they realized that they weren't alone, or they didn't, they're not the only ones who felt like that. They're not the only ones who've been through that. They're not the only ones who dealing with their parents as pastors and don't like it. And so I use them in instances like that. Did they always like it? No, but they finally got it. They understood that I was using them because I wanted somebody to know that they were human, that they did, like they were subject to error. They didn't do everything right. They weren't these perfect PK kids. They were allowed to have life. And so therefore I have these experiences to share with people. experiences that I know firsthand about, not something that I heard from somebody else's story and then I tried to bring it into my message and make it my own. No, because that's dangerous because you don't know where to go next. So I have my own family's experiences that I can use so I can help people understand that you're not in this by yourself, boo. You're really not. You're not in this by yourself. There is somebody else that's going through something similar, if not the same. There are other people who live through it and have become very successful in spite of that. Prophet Jerry Williams Sr., do you remember when prayer time and you couldn't move? When we did fasting, not this new day fasting that everybody got, fasting, dry fast. You get up, you wash your face, you brush your teeth. That's it for the day. That's it. No water, no food. 3 days minimum. 3 days minimum. And my children, even when I was carrying, I stuck to that fast. I allowed my faith to be activated that nothing would happen to them. I still did the dry fast with my children. And then after I had them, when we shut in that church, they shut right on in there with me. And we would have to be up every hour for prayer, there was scripture and a song for every hour. Um, and then now that was when I was coming up. And then when I had my children, thankfully, if the children were asleep, my uncle started saying, the scripture says, "He that sleepeth doeth well." Because no matter whether you sleep, you still are taking in everything that's around you. You ever went to sleep with your television on and you watch and in that movie they're shooting people and it's all that stuff, and then you wake up kind of shook like you was there, or you start talking like you actually saw it when really it was what you heard. um that's what they used to say as far as children. He that sleepeth doeth well, which means even though they sleep, they taking in everything that's happening. My mother would catch you off guard when you were fresh out the tub with that switch. I'm telling you, that's how my mother got my kids. Woo, she would wait till they got out the tub and would light them up. Oh my God, I used to feel so bad for them. But that's what, old school would do. They didn't have those kinds of, I wonder if they didn't care. Call who you want to call. Call who you want to call. That was the attitude of which my mom and those like her had. My father would use me as an example in his sermons. Nowadays, rebuke happens in private. Yes, nowadays that is true for the most part. I still do some open rebukes. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, I do, and I'm not gonna stop. um, because the Bible tells us to rebuke them openly that others might fear. You're supposed to make people have a second thought about whether they're going to do the same thing that person did, because they don't want to get the same responses that person did. And so, but for the most part nowadays, things are done in private. And I believe this is just my belief. I believe that it is because of that people continue to do what they're doing, because they know that they're gonna not be dealt with publicly. It's always going to be private, and so nobody will ever know um, that that there's an issue concerning them. So I do still believe that in open rebuke. I do. I do. We couldn't have a person in the choir stand. Wow, you couldn't have a person in the choir stand. Well, first of all, when I was a child, in my 9, 10, 11, 12-year old, we ain't had no purse. Our purse was our mother pocketbook. We ain't have none of our own. Now, as we got older and then as we became parents, our children had that kind of stuff. But no, we didn't have that. I know for me, it made me feel suicidal. I felt like I couldn't feel free to be who I truly was, and it dictated how I lived. And this is again my daughter being honest about um what she went through. I'm telling you, PKs go through a lot. And they're scrutinized, like their every move is just scrutinized. And until you allow them to know that their opinion matters and that their tears have a voice, as my bestie would say, blessings, Prophetess Shana. Um, you just have to, it was very uh not sad, hurtful to find out that my daughter was suicidal in thoughts, and that she even tried before. I felt less than a parent. I felt like I had let her down, and that there was nothing else I could do to fix it. um, you as a parent, you know kind of beat you, well, not kind of, you beat yourself up. How could I miss that? I'm seeing it for everybody else's kids. How come I didn't see it for my own? Which is where I was in the beginning of our conversation tonight, where I said that our children felt neglected because we were more into those of the ministry than we were at home. So they always felt like we didn't see them, we didn't hear them, we didn't listen to them, we didn't believe in anything that they said. We didn't push them. And so some of it is real, some of it's true. And so we have to eat that. When I first found out that that's where my daughter was, it was very tearful for me. It was very, I really started beating myself up as a parent. And I had to really seek God about that. It was and still is a real place. I never, ever want my children to feel like they don't matter. And I try to make sure that they make sure their children don't feel like they don't matter. But you also don't want to give them so much freedom that they don't know what respect is. And so that's where we are in today's society with parents of PKs, well, just parenting altogether. We are working so hard at not being like our parents, um, that we are causing a generation of disrespect because we're giving them, while we want them to be honest about what they feel, where there's no filter, um, there's no boundary there on um, who you say it to. While I allow you to do that with me, you have to understand that you don't have that same ability or opportunity with others, because everybody doesn't parent like me, or everybody doesn't do it my way. And so therefore we have a conflict of interest, because on one end you're telling your child, I want you to be able to say whatever you feel, but then you're reprimanding the child because whatever they feel becomes now disrespectful, either to the teacher, another adult. um Today people feel like, you know once they reach the level of maturity, and I'll say 18, 19 years old, oh, I'm grown, I can say what I want. Bull. Guess what? When you turned 19, that person that was already older than you still became that many years older than you. So there's still a level of respect. And I think that uh, that aspect of respect is misunderstood, because they take it as though what we're saying is you don't have a right to your voice. That's not what's being said. It's not that you don't have a right to your voice. You don't have a right to be disrespectful. I don't care how grown you are. If somebody is older than you, you still owe that person the respect of knowing that that's your elder. And so while you have the right to say what you feel, you don't have the right to say it any way you want to, and you don't have a right to talk to them as though they're a nigga on the street. You just don't. The Bible still holds you accountable for disrespecting your elders. So, that's something that goes along with not just PKs, any kid, any child. What else is being said? I never understood how people expect to be rebuked in private, but always expected the PKs to be openly rebuked. Correct. Correct. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Even to this day, you're absolutely right. There are some things that my children do that I rebuke them in private about, and because people didn't see me do it, they running their mouths and saying, "Oh, well, that ain't right because Apostle says such and such and such to us." But when it come to her kids, I'm never going to get in front of you and say, "Well, I did tell." No, I'm not. I don't have to rebuke my kids openly for you to believe that I said something to them. You don't like when I rebuke you openly. You want me to take you in the office. You don't want people to know you getting rebuked. So why you want me to bring my children out? I need you to get your whole life together because that's not going to happen. And so, um, just like I feel that way, there are a lot of other pastors that feel the same way. Why is it that you want their children, everything that comes to them when it comes to reprimanding, when it comes to rebuking, when it comes to shutting down what they're doing that's not right? You want theirs to be done in public, but you want us to come and take you in the room and have a meeting with you, or you want to talk about it on the phone, or you want to just pray about it, but you got much to say about nothing when it comes to somebody else's kids. You got to watch it, because then your life becomes a public display because of the way you're judging others. To this day, people will never know what I said to my children about what they're doing that I don't like in their lives. And I'm not going to do it in your face unless it requires such, unless they are blatantly doing it in the presence of me. And I'm going to say something. If we're in a church service and you acting stupid, yes, I will. And anybody that knows me knows I will. I don't have a respective person when it comes to order and respect. I don't. I don't. But what I won't do is to my children what you don't want me to do to you with your grown self. You calling, they never call me, God help them. You call my bestie because one of my children or some of my children, depending on whether they're talking about the God children or the real children, that said something on Facebook. Now y'all calling my bestie. Why y'all calling her and not me? Because you know I'm coming. I'm coming right back down the street. Because when you was on there 2 weeks ago telling everybody, one, either you were ready to die, or you were tired of folk, or you went after another leader on Facebook in the presence of the whole world, and you didn't want nobody to say nothing. Double standards, hypocrisy, not cool. And I may not get a lot of likes on this. I may not get a lot of friends on this. Ask me if I care about that. The truth is what matters to me. The truth is what matters to me. I don't have to name names. I don't have to give receipts and all that stuff that I just don't. I just know because I've been there, done that, had to experience it firsthand, had to be there for my children, had to explain it to my children. Now trying to help my children not make the same mistake with their children, so that when their children start having children, the cycle is not carried on, but it's broken. That's why I'm doing this. What does this have to do with loving the me I see? Our children, these PKs that are taking their lives because they don't feel like they matter. Like it's too much for them to handle being a PK because they can't live, because they can't error, because they can't have an opinion, because they can't enjoy the same things other people enjoy in life, because they're always expected to set the example. Let's save them, y'all. Come on. Stop. Even as adults, you don't want to be judged. Even as adults, there's only so much you want your pastor to even do. Well, I'm grown. You are grown, but you're a grown member of somebody's church. Again, which means you agree to abide by all the rules and regulations. So if God sent you there, so you say, God sent you, so you don't think that God knew you wasn't going to agree with that part when he sent you there? Maybe that's why you're there, so you can grow past that. Nobody in life is going to agree with everything everybody says. It gets to be boring. Never disagree. Never have a difference of opinion. Never, want to do something a different way. Let's just keep on doing it. Like, that's just not how he created us. Fearfully and wonderfully. We're our own individual persons. He took time to walk through our lives. He took the time to preordain and predestine us. All we got to do is try to live it out. And if we haven't figured it out yet, we got to figure out how to live it out. And if we don't know, then we need to get that prayer language going on, because he'll answer. He'll answer. Even if it's not in that same time that you pray, he will answer. Even if it happens to be through somebody else, but he'll let you know that he heard you. So I've been on here for a long time tonight with this conversation. I want to thank the PKs that did come on and start talking. When PKs walk away from the church, now we walking with the devil. Now let me ask for clarity. When you say you walk away from the church, are you talking about a particular church membership, or are you talking about the church as a whole? Which way are you walking away from the church? I need clarity, Daniela. Blessings, Apostle. I need clarity. When PKs walk away from the church, now we walking with the devil. I need to know what you mean by that. Are you saying that you left a particular ministry and so now you got to be walking with the devil? Or are you saying you're not doing church at all? So I need clarity. Hey, Pastor Tracy. What? Got to wrap up in the shower curtain. What? Where y'all coming from with this stuff? Y'all is playing tonight. Got to wrap up in the shower curtain. Y'all is crazy. Y'all. My grandmother used to take my pocketbook and just hold it. I was like, Grandma, I need my pocketbook. She'd be like, no, baby, this mine. I'm telling y'all good to have a pocketbook. We just didn't have it. The only time we had pocketbooks was like Easter, Christmas, like holidays like that where they dressing you up. You got your little small little pocketbook that you can walk around and make you think you halfway somebody. We didn't carry pocketbooks. I'm telling you, our pocketbook was our mother's pocketbook. Whatever she had for us was in that pocketbook. Safety pins, peppermints, cloves, prayer cap, tissue with a bobby pin because you ain't had no prayer cloth. That's what they used to put on our head. Tissue with a bobby pin to make sure your head was covered at all times. They don't have room to make mistakes. They don't. As PKs, you're just expected to be this perfect human being, and I think that it's unfair. Like I said, having been on both sides, I think it's unfair to expect from me what you're unable to do as a grown person. You're expecting from a child what you as an adult are unable to do. Not cool. Not okay. That's called being a hypocrite. I think that y'all heard me say I, because I ain't say God. I said I. I think that mercy should be given all around the board. Blessings, Pastor Devat. Congratulations. Mercy should be given around the board. I don't think that there's a respective person for mercy. I think that we all should be giving it at some time or another, because we never know when we might be in the situation that we're being so harsh about concerning others, or we may not have children yet, and so you're judging someone harshly, and then when you start having your children, you're gonna want somebody to understand. Nah, boo, where was that judge? Where was that mercy at when it was somebody else's child? And they're put to a high standard. One question I always hear concerning PKs and their mistakes or mess ups is, isn't that the pastor's son or daughter? They shouldn't do this or they shouldn't do that. They're not given room to make mistakes. That's what my daughter was just saying. Prophetess Long was just saying the same thing. You know, it's like y'all want everybody to openly rebuke the PK, but you want us to have a private meeting with you. No, we're not doing that. You know, if you want to live out loud and be rebuked in private, then don't expect me to rebuke mine openly while they living out loud. It's just not going to do it. Have you dealt with when PKs become numb to the ministry of their parents? Not in those words, Apostle, but yes, when I made reference more matter of factly, when I was referring to Pastor Armour when he first was getting ready to be moved into pastoralship. The first thing he said to me was, "What I'm not going to be is what you were. What they're not going to do to me is what they did to you." I had to sit through it long enough, quiet enough when they was doing it to you. So what I'm not going to do is allow that to happen to me. And it's an unfortunate thing. It's an unfortunate thing that PKs want nothing to do with church because of the way that they see how church handles their parents. Um, Now, we always have an exception. There are some PKs that are very happy being the PK that they are. And I'm so happy for you. I am so happy for you. But the truth of the matter is, more than not, um, are in unhealthy relationships because they are pushed into things because of the sake of leadership. And so they are um, pushed into things that they would not normally have done if it wasn't for that. And they're paying for it. You know, they're either miserable, they're withdrawn, they're depressed, um, just feeling abandoned because our parents have all of this love, all of this compassion, all of this understanding for everybody else in the church. But then when you get home with us, you don't understand nothing. You know, and for years it was because pastors didn't know how to balance being both pastor and um, mommy, or pastor and daddy. You know, we didn't have the balance that's allowed to us today. Back then, it was all or nothing, all or nothing. You know, and so um, I think that um, in order for us to effectively love the me that we see, is that we have to be allowed to be freed of all of the hurt, of all of the disappointment, of all of the neglect, of all of the ridicule, of all of the exclusions. I mean, the list goes on for PKs that they have never, as an adult, even now, been able to be freed of those things because uh, Jesus was going to fix it. No other solution, just that. Apostle Yearwood says, not that angle. The angle of the ministry, their parents can effectively work on others, seem to have no power over them. Example, their parents can work. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, sir, I did. We talked about that. Yes, yes. In the very beginning, we did. We talked about that. Not necessarily using the word deliverance, but what I said was we have all of this love, all of this compassion. We pray with all of these. We got time for everything for everybody else's family, but our own. And yeah, but our own. And unfortunately, because of that, that's why we have so many PKs in trouble with the law. I dealt with it from that perspective as well. You know, that's why we have some of them in trouble with the law, or staying in trouble at school, because that's the only time that they feel like they can have the attention of their parents, is when something negative is going on in their life, because the positive stuff, they're being overlooked because their parents are paying attention to everybody else, and then coming back to them and saying that, well, you should know, you should already know because you with me, or you should understand that this is what I have to do. Like PKs had to understand a whole lot of stuff, which is why they all jacked up now. And I think that they need to be given that time of freedom to release. I think that, when I said I wanted to have a PK conference, most times people, when they have the PK conference, they're looking forward to um they're looking forward to um preaching, or knowing how many PKs are now prophets and knowing how many PKs are now preachers. No, I want to come from a point of view where PKs are allowed to be free. And what does that mean? That they're allowed to cry out at the altar for all of the hurt, disappointment, letdowns, droppings, all of that. That they're allowed to be truthful about the pain that they're still carrying to this day. There's some PKs that are living suppressed, which means that things that has happened to them, it's being suppressed. It's being pushed down further and further because they didn't get a chance to deal with it as they were coming up, and now they parents, and so they can't afford to deal with it because now they got to raise their kids, but they don't realize that they're already utilizing some of that energy because now you want to make sure that you don't do with your kids that your parents did to you. So therefore, instead of telling your children everything in my house going to church, your children get an option about whether they're going to church. And then when they get in trouble, you want to know what happened, or you want to know why nobody's in a rush to come to the rescue, and it is because of what people are saying is a double standard. And so we have to allow our PKs, and I say ours, and I'm talking about children that are not even mine. I'm talking about PKs that need a healing. That's the kind of service I want to have for the PKs. Not somebody that's looking to show off their gift. We could do that at any service. Not somebody that wants us to know that the lineage continues with pastors. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not the way God gave it to me. I want it to be where the PKs can come and cry out without judgment. That's the desire of my heart, to have a conference for PKs. And the only expectation is that they come truthful, transparent, and ready to cry out. That's what. Natural or spiritual. I would say all. I would say all, sir. Preferably natural, but spiritual PKs are just as valid because some of us have been under the parenting spiritually for people for years and years, and so I think that would merit them as a PK. I wouldn't even, they are PK to me. So yes, many PK run from church because of what they saw and went through: bias, no balance, frustration, and becomes rebellious. I'm serious. That I'm telling you that a lot of these PKs got into trouble that they got into because they wanted the attention of their parent, and that was the only way they could get it. A lot of people might not like that, but that's the truth. I don't know why the link didn't go through. Let me see. 1 second, guys. I'm not going to be here much longer, but let me see. Let me see. Messenger. I'm trying to, I don't know why it wouldn't let me. Hey, Shanae. I don't know whether to call you pastor or not. I want you to bless me out. Um, Ma, I just sent it to you in Messenger. Look and see if you can come on that way. But yes, that's the PK conference I want to have. One where they're able to come to church, be truthful about how they feel, and have somebody sincerely pray with them. And have somebody sincerely pray with them. Not hey son, how are you? Um, like give them an opportunity to just cry out. Like I wish you guys could feel my heart. I know how God gave it to me, and it's not a PK conference where, again, you're coming to show, that the line continues, the family legacy goes on with preacher after preacher after preacher, or um, you got all of these riffs and your vocals are just off the chart, or you have this dynamic ability to speak the word. Like, no, I want you to have the ability to cry out to God. That's what I want. Somebody that's willing to come and be real, um, and be transparent. These PKs need somebody that is not looking to gossip. They need somebody that's they need a safety zone. That's it. They need a safety zone. They need a safety zone. It's just I just wish somebody would have did this for me. I don't think I would have been as jacked up so long if I had been given the opportunity to really be who I am. And so in these latter years of my life, um, that's exactly what I'm doing. I don't have any, there's no filtering at this point, unless God does it. I'm just trying to help the way I want it to be helped. I I, I want people to know that um, PK kids really do love God. They just don't love the people who God chose because those are the ones that's giving them holy heck. Like for real, for real, for real, for real. You there, Ma? Says you are. I don't see your picture. There. Hi. Why you not showing though? Why say remove? Okay, wait. Let me try 1 second. Is that it? It's buffering on your side. It's buffering on your side, Ma. Sorry, guys. My daughter was trying to come on. And but that's what Ma, go back out and try to come in because it's not doing it. Go back out and try to come in. Um, I love God's people. Facts. I absolutely love God's people. Matthew, send me your oh never mind. I know how to get you. 1 second, guys. I got a few people that's trying to come on, but I'm getting ready to sign off. Y'all, I'm not going to keep me on here till midnight, but I am going to invite a couple of you on for these last few minutes. Don't go nowhere, Mom. Don't go nowhere. I'm coming back. Matthew. There you go. Let's see. Don't go anywhere, guys. All right, Matthew, I sent you the link. There she look at her. Look at that beautiful thing right there. Beautiful thing right there. That's my firstborn. My firstborn.
Hey, mommy.
Hey. You're supposed to
I
call me
would say,
ma'am. You're supposed to
so,
call me apostle.
oh, I'm sorry, Apostle Mommy. But I was saying that, yes, that kind of PK conference, not many people that say they want to have a PK conference, when you think about it and you get there, it's like they try to use you to, give the sermon to basically run the whole thing. But I'm talking about a PK conference where the PKs can come and be free to be who they are and be talked to or taught or just
Fed.
feeling free to be themselves.
Yes, I want somebody to pour back into the PKs. That's the way he gave it to me. You know, because the PKs are still hurting. While we are focusing, and a lot of people know of some very prominent PKs right now, there are still those who are dying in silence because they haven't been heard. They're tired of trying to be heard. They're misunderstood. Um, Everybody's talking about how they're acting out, but nobody's seeking for the cause as to why they're acting out. And they need this forum, they need this opportunity to be able to come in without judgment, without somebody seeing you walk through the door and be like, oh my God, I know why they're here. Or, oh my God,
Exactly.
you want somebody that's going to be there that says, I'm here. Like when you walk in the door, you sense that these people really are here to help you. And they're not here to get your business so that they can go tell the next preacher, so that they can tell the next person, oh, guess what I found out? Or I told you it was more to them than that. Or I told you, they wasn't no good. I'm telling you, that's not what God wants for this. There's no way we
Exactly.
get ready for his coming if we're not willing to heal all that hurt, not just the ones we feel are hurt, but heal all that hurt. And there are a lot of hurting PKs that are even afraid to say I'm hurting because of
Because
who
they
they
don't want to be judged.
because of who their parents are. Oh my God, if I say that, then they're gonna start then my parents or my mother or my father gonna be calling me like, why are you embarrassing me like that? And why I understand that you as my children saw a lot that I didn't realize that you guys saw that I endured. I also know that there were some things that y'all saw that you felt like um I let somebody punk me and you didn't understand why I didn't respond the way y'all wanted me to, why I didn't lash back or clap back, as they say today. But instead, I just, wrote it out. I'm like, it's whatever. There were people who preached in our pulpit and didn't know that I knew that they were ones talking about me. And you guys couldn't understand why I'm still letting them preach in my pulpit. And I'm trying to, help y'all to see that we can't always react. We have to learn how to respond. And it takes time to get to that place of not being reactionary, but being responsive. And um, that's what it's going to take because Jesus didn't tell Judas, you betrayer, you traitor. That's not how Jesus treated Judas. It's
Right.
not how he treated him. He still served that man communion and everything and then said to him, you know what? Now you go ahead and do what you got to do because I can't do what I got to do till you do it. So he knew all along that he had a traitor walking beside him as a disciple. Never
Right.
told him never said, don't come behind me. Never.
I think a lot of things that we saw personally as your PK was, a lot of things we didn't understand. You're right on how you dealt with it because a lot of times we would get angry like, well, how she got so much aggression when it's us? But she letting these people get by and we telling her like, no, this is what they didn't know they said. And it's not until we got grown that I can say I understand now why you handle certain things the way you did and didn't speak it, because I'm learning now that just because we didn't see you speak that way or defend yourself or um navigate through it the way we felt like you should have doesn't mean that you didn't do it, just means that you went about it in a different way. And Now that we're grown, or that I'm grown and I have my own children and go through real life situations, I'm learning that all the reasons on why you did some of the things that you did,
It
it
brought the
makes
scripture.
sense.
It brought the scripture to life a whole lot about all things lawful and not expedient. It's just, I didn't feel like it was necessary to prove to others that I'm not a punk, because I know I'm not a punk. Ain't never been one, so I know I'm not a punk. But what I do know, and what I sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. I do know how to handle people for the most part. I have gone to people in private after they publicly humiliated me, or even when it came to prophets giving me the wrong word, I ain't stand up and say, "You a lie." That ain't, no, that's not what I did. I went to them after church and let them know that they were off, and asked and gave them an opportunity to explain themselves. I don't feel like everybody should be privy to what I do with other people. And
I agree.
yeah, it takes some time. It's not something you just wake up and
I
decide.
agree.
It's,
No, because
you
I
know,
didn't always agree.
yeah,
I agree now because I'm learning that everybody is not deserving of all of you. Um, and that it's not so much to guard you, sometimes it's to guard them, because maybe they're not able or open to some of the things that you yourself are experiencing. And that's things that I didn't understand growing up, because you were the pastor, a lot of times we felt like we weren't being heard. But it's not that we weren't being heard. And I get that now that we're older and able to understand certain situations that might have happened, back then. You understand it in a different limelight, or you're able to see it from a different perspective. So what you thought might have been one way turned out to be something totally different. And now I understand, better now that I'm grown, some of the things that you had to deal with. And even growing up, we felt like, we weren't often, it was like, we were put to the back burner because you had to be there for everybody else. So as a child, you felt like, well, dad, she there and she going to their game and she going to this, but we didn't understand why you were going to their game, or why it was necessary at that time for you to be where you were and be to them what you needed to be to them. And it wasn't that you didn't want to be there for us, but I think you thought we were maybe stronger, um, and more capable at the time. And I don't think that you knew some of the severity of things at the time. And when you're a child and you're going through it, you don't think that your parent don't know the severity of what's going on. All you know is, Mom, but I'm telling you and I'm showing you. Would you not understand it? But you're not taking into consideration of, well, maybe she was being dealt a hand that you weren't aware of, so that made her unaware of just how severe, like, so it's just different. And I think that time allows you sometimes to see and understand it from a better perspective. But I also think that that's where the conference comes into play, because sometimes people don't have all the tools that you have to show you that time does allow you to see it from a different perspective and help you to understand, so that you're not continuously carrying that anger and that animosity, which then stunts the growth of you and that parent, but furthermore of you and your children, because you carry that resentment, you carry that anger, not knowing that you carry that resentment and that anger, but because your child might do something to remind you of that situation, or it's really deep.
I mean, and again, it's all in knowing you. Of course, I expected my children to understand, because my children knew that on the flip side of that, that they were my life. Like, I was very protective of my children. I was overly protective of my children.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
to wherein they thought that I didn't understand, our house became the house for everybody. Everybody lived at our house. Y'all brought all y'all friends to the house. Come talk to my mother. Like nobody else had a mother. Like, come talk to my mother. You can stay at our house, you know, because I just, it's the way God would have it. And I was just able to get what I didn't feel I got. Um, with my dad, who was my life, dying, and I was so young when it happened. It was like having to. I never got a chance to be all right. I never got a chance to tell the truth about how I felt about losing my father. I immediately had to be this person that everybody saw, you know. And so I didn't have an opportunity to act out. My mother worked at the school I worked at, and everybody knew, So it was just different things. And then as you guys got older and you started making your mistakes and things like that, people will be like, oh, well, she must not be because they doing this and that. You don't know. My children got their butt told off by me in the house. I'm not doing it in front of your face just because you want to know that I said something to my kids. I've never been that way. I've never been one to defend lies. I always tell people to outlive them. I let people say what they want to say. I also don't blatantly disrespect leadership. I don't care who they are, and I don't care what title I have, even now. I don't blatantly disrespect leadership. I'll never let anybody see me just do that, because then that tells somebody else they could do it. I'm not gonna be the reason why somebody else disrespects another person. I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. And
I agree.
so
But a
it
lot of times when you first started ministry, a lot of times your kids got openly rebuked, but the church members wanted to have the private rebukes. And that was aggravating. I
and that's
understand
still
it
to this day.
now because I feel like it helped me to have more respect for the church. Um and understanding that there's a time and a place for everything, and it's not so much. I learned the true meaning of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, or it's not what you did, but it's how you went about it, or it's not, because for a while I didn't care, because it was like when I became old enough to express myself, it was like I don't care, and I don't care who feelings I hurt, because they never understood, growing up how I felt, and I was always made to be quiet, and now I don't care. And now that I'm an adult with
With children
children,
who are PKs.
I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I get it.
But you have to, me as the parent, I had to trust that this day would come, because you never have any guarantee, but you have to trust that God's going to allow the day when they can see what you were talking about, and they be able, and you can hear things like what you're saying now. Now I get it. Now I understand. Now I realize that it wasn't that you didn't care. It's just that this person over here need a little bit more care than I do, because when at the end of the night you coming back home to me and they got to go where they're going. And so it's a lot. It's a lot. Um, it's just a whole lot. I just think that this PK conference needs to happen, and we just need some PKs that's ready to be truthful and transparent, and we need some folk um
That are for real, and
that
that are
that
not going to be trying to get into your drawers
yeah,
while
because
trying to help you in a vulnerable state. Because a lot of times, more times than none, PK scared because those are the ones that are being molested. Those are the ones that are being raped. Those are the ones that are being taken advantage of. And not even so much by laity, but by other preachers who
yeah,
you
I
become
know.
vulnerable to because, you know, you want the help and you think you're going about it the right way to get the help. But the help that you're going to needs help themselves.
Right. And that's what, like, well, so many lives ago on Loving to Me I See, I talked about um me serving Uncle Bishop, and the many times that his guests um, thought I was the hospitality,
Right,
for lack of better wording.
right,
And
right.
so, and when I would tell, it was not believed. And so it was very hurtful. And so therefore, when it happened again, you just didn't say nothing because nobody was believing you. You just growing up constantly being used for not for hospitality, because uncle didn't know, but as the hospitality. So it's a lot. And so therefore there are a lot of PKs that are grown PKs right now with some suicidal thoughts and depressed thoughts when they're left alone, or when they start thinking back on who they are. Because we asked the question 2 weeks ago, who are you? If I take away the fact that you're a mother, you're a daughter, that you're saved, who are you? And there's a lot of people who could not answer that because they're so quick
That's
to
a
say,
hard
I'm a
question.
mother, I'm a wife. No, no, no. I don't want to know. I don't want to know those people. I
They
want to
give you
know
the cover ups.
who you are. I want to know who you are. When you get up in the morning and you ain't got nothing on your face, you ain't had no time to brush your teeth. Like, who are you? Who are you? Because I had to, come to the realization that there were some things that I did coming up that when I look back now, if I wasn't trying to be included, or if I wasn't trying to, not appear to be holier than thou, I would have never done it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. I did it to be included. I did it so nobody didn't, call me holier than thou. I did it like there was so many reasons why I did it, but never because I wanted to do it. And so now, when you start coming into your own and you start, having the ability to say, "Nah, I'm good. Y'all go ahead. I'm good." It takes a lot of strength to be able to do that because, in the beginnings, I was still second guess myself after I said, "No, I'm good." Then when it's getting ready to be, I'll be like, well, maybe I should, I have to, check myself,
Yeah, but then you get
and
there and you
pull
don't fit
myself,
in.
yeah, pull it back in because, I'm trying to continually come into myself, and I can't do that if I'm continually trying to be somebody else. And so,
Right.
yeah, so I'm getting ready to get off of here. Look, we
Yes,
still got
ma'am.
15 viewers. We still got 15 viewers, and I'm loving it. It means that we got something to say, and it means something to somebody. I want to say that I thank all of you who are still here with us. Hey, Prophetess Kristen. Um, those of you who stayed with us, the pastors, assistant pastor, Elder Jalil, Apostle Yearwood, Pastor Devet, uh, who I miss over here, Pastor Tracy. Um, oh man, I'm missing some people. Master Prophet Jesse, Master Prophet Jerry Williams, Minister Kevin Kimbrough,
Hi,
Prophet.
everyone.
I mean, all of these preachers, uh, Elder Troy Hamilton, Apostle Hester, Pastor Hall, Pastor Designate Jessica. Um, Oof, I didn't realize it was that many people. Um, yeah, I mean tonight with Evangelist Tunisia, and Prophetess Ayana, and Missionary Shanae, oh, my nephew Matthew, Daniela.
Lord. Oh, my goodness.
I'm telling you, we had a good little crew. Pastor Rivera, we had a good little crew tonight, and Kendra, I said Tunisia, Tati, Lorraine. Oh my y'all was just in here with us tonight, and most of you are still here with us. Tori, Brittany, no Tori. I didn't see Brittany. I saw her name mentioned. But thank you guys for being with us tonight. My nephew Matthew is saying we need a part two, and so we'll probably continue the discussion because I didn't think that because people didn't inbox me and say they wanted to come on, I didn't think the conversation was going to go as well. But next
Ooh, I
next week,
heard that buzz. I
yeah,
heard it. I heard it.
we're gonna be here next week again at 9:15. And we are going to continue the conversation about PKs, and the double standard. It's a real thing, and trying to get this PK conference off. I'm not going to give up on that idea. I'm not going to give up on it. God placed it in my spirit. I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to find some people that have the same heart and we're going to do this, and we're going to get it to happen. We just need to have it at a place where everybody can come at a time when everybody can come. So I want to thank you, my firstborn, for coming on
Yes, ma'am.
and sharing with us. And thank you for those of you who shared in transparency with us in the comments. We never take that for granted. We never take it lightly. Thank you so much, so much, so much for being here. So we're going to say goodnight. Remember, my bestie was here, but she wasn't feeling well. Plus, she's dealing with a lot. She just lost her mother on Sunday. And so I need you guys to continue to pray for her. Um, so just thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. We believe in you. And we just want you to learn how to love the you that you see unapologetically. And so until next week, we want to say amen. Good night. Have a great day tomorrow. Today was the day to take advantage of, though. Have a great day. Tomorrow's going to be cold. Friday is going to be rainy. So do what you got to do tomorrow, or wait till Saturday when the rain will cease. But be careful. Make sure you show love to somebody else. That which you're expecting, that which you're waiting for, that which you wish for, um, be that to somebody else. Be that to somebody else. Perhaps it's not happening for you, but it doesn't justify you not being it for somebody else, because you know how it feels firsthand. So let's help somebody else not feel like that. So it might seem minor to you, but it'll be major to them, just to hear that you checked on them, that you thought about them, that they, came across your mind. Like, you just never know what people are thinking. Now you look at PKs a little differently after we had this conversation tonight. So perhaps you know a PK. You might want to check in on them and say, hey, we never talked about it. I'm not sure if you ever would want to, but hey, I need you to know that I've been there. I've done that. I identify. And we got this conversation going on, and you need to be a part of it, because we're trying to plan this conference. We're going to get it together where these PKs can cry out to God for help, for healing, because we're still hurting, but we're trying to live on top of it. We're trying to work on top of it. We're trying to raise our children on top of it. But until we've effectively been healed, we still are not able to give our children all that they need to get through it themselves. And so that's what we want to do. We want to be there for one another. Again, thanks. Hey, Move. Thank you so much. So meet us here next week at 9:15 as we continue this conversation of double standards when it comes to PKs. Love you guys so much. Be sweet.